Why can a tariff announcement in Washington or an oil disruption thousands of miles away change what your family spends this week? The short answer is that tariffs raise the cost of bringing some goods into the country, while energy shocks raise the cost of moving, processing, heating, cooling, and sometimes producing almost everything else. But they travel through your budget at different speeds. Gasoline can jump within days. Imported household goods may take months. Food often moves more slowly because the price on the shelf includes farming, packaging, refrigeration, transportation, and retail costs. That timing difference is why the headlines and your receipts do not always seem to match. The latest available Consumer Price Index report as of early August 2026 covers June. It showed energy prices 15.7% higher than a year earlier, while food at home was 2.7% higher. Yet energy prices actually fell sharply during June after rising in the previous 3 months. That is the first useful lesson. Energy prices can spike and retreat quickly. Grocery and household goods prices usually adjust more gradually. Let's start with tariffs. A tariff is a tax charged when a covered product enters the country. The foreign government does not normally write the check. The U.S. importer pays the duty to the U.S. government. Imagine an importer buys a small appliance overseas for $100. If that product faces a 20% tariff and the foreign supplier keeps charging $100, the importer now owes another $20 at the border. Its cost becomes $120 before domestic shipping, warehousing, marketing, and retail expenses. That does not guarantee the store price rises by exactly $20. The foreign manufacturer could lower its price. The importer could accept a smaller profit. The retailer could absorb part of the increase. Or the company could switch suppliers, redesign the product, reduce discounts, or sell a cheaper version. But someone has to absorb the cost. If businesses cannot absorb all of it, some reaches shoppers through higher prices. Federal Reserve research on the 2025 tariffs found measurable but incomplete pass-through to consumer prices. The size varied by product, source country, retailer, and timing. The effect also developed gradually rather than arriving as one dramatic price increase. There are several reasons for that delay. A store may still be selling inventory imported before the tariff. A supplier contract may temporarily lock in an older price. A retailer may wait for competitors to move first. Instead of changing the sticker price, it may quietly offer fewer promotions. When the next shipment arrives at the higher cost, the pressure becomes harder to hide. This is why a tariff announced on Monday does not mean every toaster, couch, tool, or washing machine costs more on Tuesday. It is also why tariffs are not the same as a sales tax. A sales tax appears clearly at checkout. A tariff is buried upstream. By the time you see the final price, you may not know whether the increase came from the tariff, shipping, materials, wages, currency movements, or a business changing its margin. If explanations like this help you connect economic headlines to real money decisions, subscribe. We focus on the mechanics behind the numbers, without the panic or political team sports. Now compare that slow tariff channel with an energy shock. Oil is traded in a global market. If traders expect a serious interruption to production or shipping, crude oil prices can move before any local gas station actually runs short. Gasoline prices then respond as refiners, distributors, and stations adjust to the new replacement cost. That is the direct effect. You fill the tank and immediately notice that the same number of gallons costs more. Suppose your household buys 20 gallons of gasoline each week. At $3.25 a gallon, that is $65. If the price rises by 50 cents, the same driving now costs $75. Your weekly budget loses $10 without getting anything extra in return. Energy also has indirect effects. A delivery truck needs fuel. A bakery uses energy to run ovens. A supermarket pays for lighting, freezers, and refrigeration. Farms use fuel and energy, while fertilizer and packaging can also be sensitive to energy and commodity markets. Still, do not take that to mean a 10% increase in gasoline automatically creates a 10% increase in groceries. Fuel is only one cost among many. Labor, rent, ingredients, weather, disease, competition, and consumer demand also matter. USDA research emphasizes that the farm commodity is only part of the supermarket price. Processing, wholesaling, transportation, retailing, and other services make up much of what consumers pay. That can dilute an energy shock, but it also gives the shock several different routes into the food system. Fresh produce may face higher transportation costs. Frozen food depends heavily on a refrigerated chain. Packaged products include manufacturing and packaging. Restaurants combine food, labor, rent, utilities, and delivery. Each category reacts differently. There is another timing issue. Gas stations frequently replace inventory, so pump prices can respond quickly. Grocery companies may have longer contracts, larger inventories, or seasonal supply arrangements. Their prices can adjust with a lag. Even after oil falls, some food prices may remain elevated because other costs are still high, or because businesses are recovering earlier losses. Now let's put both shocks into one household budget. Consider a hypothetical family whose regular weekly variable spending looks like this. They spend $220 on groceries, $65 on gasoline, $60 as a weekly share of electricity and natural gas bills, and $30 on cleaning products and other household supplies. That is $375 a week. For this example, assume gasoline rises by 50 cents per gallon, and the family buys 20 gallons. That adds $10. Assume grocery prices facing this particular family rise by 2%, as energy, packaging, and transportation costs move through the supply chain. 2% of $220 is $4.40. Assume household energy bills rise by 5%. 5% of $60 adds $3. Finally, assume tariff exposure and other import costs raise the family's $30 household supplies category by 5%. That adds $1.50. The new weekly total is $393.90. The combined increase is $18.90 a week, or roughly $82 in an average month. These are illustrative assumptions, not a forecast. The point is how a collection of modest increases can become noticeable when they hit several categories at once, and the average can hide the real pain. A family that drives 400 miles a week will feel a gasoline shock more than someone who works from home. A household in an area with high summer cooling demand may feel electricity costs more. Someone replacing a refrigerator may face a large one-time tariff-sensitive purchase, even if their normal weekly spending barely changes. Suppose an $800 appliance becomes 6% more expensive. That is an extra $48 in one transaction. Spreading that across a year makes it look like less than $1 a week, but the family still needs the full $48 on the day the appliance breaks. Weekly averages are useful, but they can disguise lumpy expenses. This leads to 3 common misunderstandings. First, a 20% tariff does not automatically mean the retail price rises 20%. The tariff may apply to the import value, not the final store price, and the cost can be shared across exporters, importers, retailers, and shoppers. Second, one expensive item does not prove tariffs caused the increase. A product may contain tariffed materials, imported parts, domestic labor, and energy-intensive transportation. Several forces can move at once. Third, lower inflation does not necessarily mean lower prices. If grocery inflation falls from 5% to 2%, groceries are generally still getting more expensive. They are just getting more expensive more slowly. Actual price declines require negative inflation in that category. So, how can you read your own budget without trying to become a trade economist? Separate fast moving costs from slow moving ones. Gasoline is usually fast. Utility bills depend on local rate structures and usage, so they may move differently. Groceries are mixed. Durable goods, such as appliances, furniture, and electronics, are slower and more irregular. Compare quantities as well as dollars. If the grocery bill rose because you bought more food, that is not the same as paying more for the same basket. Track a few repeat purchases, your cost per gallon, and your utility usage. That gives you a cleaner signal than one unusually expensive week. Keep major purchases in perspective. A tariff headline alone is not a reason to panic buy an appliance. Waiting may expose you to a higher price, but buying something you do not need can cost far more than the increase you are trying to avoid. The big picture is simple. Tariffs usually enter your budget through selected goods, imported components, and delayed price adjustments. Energy shocks hit fuel directly, then spread more broadly through transportation, production, and utilities. When both happen together, the squeeze can feel larger than either headline suggests because several small changes compete for the same paycheck. If there is another money headline you want translated into an everyday budget, leave it in the comments. Your question could be the next topic.